Alright, so today we are going to be canning ground beef, and we are using the mega skillet. This is the one that I can't even lift. This is the one my husband uses, and it's 17 inches, we think. It might be 18. I think it's 18 across the top and 17 across the bottom. So anyway, so we can do multiple pounds of ground meat at a time in this. I can cook up to 3 chickens in this. It's really, really great when my husband's home to lift it. So after this is browned, we'll bring you back to the next step. Okay, so when you're canning ground meat of any sort, it has to be thoroughly cooked. It is a safety issue. It can't be raw packed like most meats. It has something to do with the density. You can look it up, but it must be completely done. No red, no raw, nothing. Once it's safely browned, we transfer it to a pot and we keep going. We're going to be doing at least, what, 10? Was it 10? Yeah. 10 ground beef and 4 Italian sausage. Alright, once your hamburger is done, you need to put 3 quarts of water into your pressure canner if you are doing pints, but if you are doing quarts, you need to put 4 quarts of water in. You want to take your clean and sanitized jars and fill them up with hot water. This is just to get the jar up to the same temperature as the beef. Okay, when I put my lids in to simmer, I do every other one up and every other one down, because if you have them so that they're like that, they'll often slide on top of each other and stick, and it makes it really hard to get them apart when they're really, really hot. So in here I'm going to cover it with hot water, and then I'm going to put it on to simmer for 2 minutes. They have changed the rules when they changed the canning lids, so it's no longer boiling for 10 minutes. It's simmering for 2 minutes. Okay, you want to put down a double thickness of toweling to put your jars on. This is because the hot jars touching the cold counter could cause your jars to crack, and one thickness can still possibly cause your jars to crack, so you err on the side of caution and you put down a double thickness. Alright, I like to use a ladle to put this in. This is not the type I prefer. It's completely rounded. I prefer using one that has a little bit of a squaring off. It makes it easier to dip it into the meat than it does to use this one. This one's more for liquidy things. This one works a lot better, in my opinion. So then you just ladle it into your jar, leaving 1 inch of headspace. Okay, you can see it's 1 inch from the top, so that is where you start measuring your headspace, and you go down 1 inch. Okay, now from this step, there's 2 ways you can go. You could either leave it as is and can it like this, and it will generate its own juice, though it might only come up to half the bottle. It's still fine. It doesn't have to be covered, but some people like to cover it, and so they'll put boiling water on it. Either way is fine. I prefer this way. It's simpler. If you do put liquid in, you're going to want to poke something plastic down in it. Usually a bubbler, but I can't find mine, so I'm just using the other end of my magnet. And you want to do that to just make sure it's nicely packed down. If there's water in it, it's to get the air bubbles out. And then you need to add some canning and pickling salt, or you can add like sea salt, but it has to be only salt. It can't be iodized. It can't have anything else in it. Table salt generally has iodine and a little bit of sugar in it, and sometimes anti-caking stuff. So it's just easier to buy a big box of canning salt, and it's really cheap. So it's just makes the process a lot easier. So I add a ½ teaspoon to each pint, and if you're doing quarts, you add a whole teaspoon. And you don't actually have to add the salt, it just makes it taste better. A lot better. Okay, at this point you want to wipe your rims. Now if you're doing fruit or vegetables, hot water is fine to wipe your rims with, but when you're doing meat, you need some vinegar. It helps dissolve any fat that could get on the rim. And you just go around the rim with the vinegar. You don't want anything that could prevent you from making a seal. Okay, when you dip in, you get one lid with your magnet, put it on, grab your ring. Honey, can you come hold this? Twist it on, and then it goes into the canner. So once you've got your jar lid tightened, or your ring tightened on your lid, then you pick it up with your jar lifter and you stick it in the pot. Now the water in here should be warm. If you're actually using boiling water in your meat instead of just letting it be like this, then you want it to be boiling water in the pot too. You want the jars to be the same temperature as your water. Okay, I've got the second rack on. This canner can actually do 3 layers of pints, but we're only doing 2 today. If your jars are hot, use your jar lifter. Okay, so technically we could even fit one more in there, but we don't have another one. So now the lid will go on. Let's see where the arrows. We're using an all-American canner. Yeah, there's the other one right here. You want to match this arrow up to this indentation here, and then once they are, you put your seals on. And you want to go cross corner. You want to do this one, and that one, and that one, and that one. So diagonally across from each other. Okay, and then now we turn the heat on. Yeah, it's okay. And then we wait for this thing to vent, and then once it vents, we go for 10 minutes with it venting, and then we'll put the weight on it. Okay, now we put the 10-pound weight on, and we wait for this gauge to move up to 10, and then we will time it for 1 hour and 15 minutes for pints, or if you are doing quarts, it is 1.5 hours.
Okay, we reached the 10 under pressure. Got the weight starting to rock. So we'll set the timer for 75 minutes. And then turn down the heat a little bit so that it's not crossing continuously.
Okay, so after the 75 minutes are up, you turn the heat off. The thing will stop rattling, but more or less it'll rattle a little bit as the pressure comes down, but you don't want to take that off. You want to leave that on, and you wait until your pressure comes all the way down to 0. And then you can take it off and open it up. But just, even though the pressure's down to 0, that doesn't mean the steam inside is down to 0. So you have to be very careful when you open it, and you open it away from you. The pressures come completely down to 0, so now we remove the weight. And then we remove these kitty corner from each other, or open them kitty corner from each other, all the way around. And you take off the lid, you open it away from you, twist, honey. Something's not undone. And you let any steam out and up into the vent. And there you go. You start taking them out with your jar lifter. These are hot, so you know using your hands this time. And you take them over and you put them on your double thick towel. Alright, so that gives us a total of 14 jars, and they have all sealed. They need to sit on the counter for 24 hours, and then you can come back and take the rings off and wash them, and then you want to wash your bottles off in case there was any fat leakage during the canning process, because you don't want to put them on your shelves if they're covered in fat. You can see that it made its own juices, but it only went about halfway up, and then that will mostly solidify into fat in the jars, and that's fine. And it's actually a very good way to store fat in your food storage in a way where it's not going to go rancid on you. So yes, you don't want to get rid of all the fat. You don't want to have, you know, huge blocks of it or anything, but some fat in it is a good thing, just so that you can have some fat on hand as needed. And so that is how you can ground beef or any ground meat.